One of the common things you'll need to do as a county agent is to help your clients with weed identification. It'll be a very common occurrence for a client to come to you and say, I've got this weed climbing all over my landscape, like you see here. What is it? And how do we control it? Well, the first thing you've got to do is identify it. If you don't know what it is, you can send a sample in to NC State University for identification. There are 3 ways to do it. You can send digital images, you can send a fresh specimen, or you can send a pressed and dried specimen. Regardless of which method you use, it's important that we have the identifying characteristics. A good specimen that has enough of the plant that we can tell what it is, good intact leaves, stems, flowers are important, and if you have some fruit, that's also helpful. If you're sending digital images, you want to make sure that those photographs are clear and in focus. For a plant that has very small flowers, it's particularly important to get a good, clear, in focus photograph of that flower. If for any reason you can't do the digital images to get them to us, or we cannot tell what it is from the digital images, then you can send us a fresh sample. And the best way to send a fresh sample is to moisten the sample itself. Okay, so we'll just take a little bit of water, make sure the sample is moist, then take that sample and wrap it in a dry paper towel. By wetting the sample and then putting it in a dry paper towel, the dry paper towel wicks away the excess moisture, but there's enough moisture there to keep it moist while you mail it. Then take that sample, put it in a plastic bag, seal that up, pack that in a box with some packing material, and mail that to the extension specialist on campus. If, for example, you're unable to mail that sample right away, or it's late in the week and if you mailed it, it would sit in the mailroom for several days or over a holiday, it would then be better to press and dry the sample. To do so, you would use a plant press such as this. You can do this with several sheets of newspaper and some cardboard on a flat, solid surface with something to weight it down, some bricks or a bunch of books. But I'm going to show you how to lay this out. So with this sample, we don't need all of the sample. We just need to make sure we have all of the identifying characteristics, such as the stem, the leaves, the flowers, the tendrils, and enough of that so we'll be able to identify it. You want to take your specimen, spread it out on the newspaper, making sure that the leaves are separated and the stem is present. If you have any flowers, make sure you have at least one of the flowers present on the specimen. We've got a flower here. I'm taking off the large mature fruit, but we have a small immature fruit still attached. Fleshy fruit like this can also be pressed and dried, but it will take longer for this to dry, and it's a good idea to add extra absorbent layers to the plant press. If your specimen is too large to fit on a sheet of paper, you can always cut the specimen and make 2 samples out of it. Once you have the specimen arranged on the paper and the leaves flattened and spread, then you roll the newspaper over it, and as you roll this up and cover the plant, you want to just make sure the leaves stay spread and flat as you cover it up. Then you add more newspaper, piece of cardboard, a good solid flat surface on it, and these plant presses come with belts to then tighten that down. At this point, if you're doing this at home with your own makeshift press, you would just put heavy weights of some sort on top of this to press it all down. That keeps the plant flat. It presses the excess moisture out into the newspaper, and then you just let this sit in a well-ventilated area for a week or 2, and that plant will be pressed, flat, and dried. Then you can put that plant in between 2 sheets of cardboard or heavyweight paper or poster paper, put that in an envelope, and mail that to a specialist at NC State University. But who do you send the sample to, whether it's a digital or a fresh sample or the pressed and dried sample? Since most of the time you're also going to be requesting some weed control information along with this, it's best to send it to the extension specialist who is working with that crop situation. So if it's landscape plantings or nursery crops, that would be me. Well, how do you know who to send it to? If you visit my website, we have a section there for weed identification that lists the recommended weed identification guides, but also has a link to the form that you will fill out to send with your sample. This form will contain information about the sample that you're sending, but it also lists all of the extension specialists at NC State University who are working with different cropping situations. Send it directly to that specialist who is working with that crop. Chances are they have already seen this weed and will be able to identify it quickly and easily. If that specialist cannot identify the weed, we can take it to the herbarium at NC State University, where our herbarium curator, Dr. Alexander Krings, can identify most plants as long as they have all the identifying characteristics. With the information about the weed, you can then look up more about the species. How does it reproduce? How does it spread? What is its life cycle? This information will then help you develop weed management plans for your clients.